What's up, Flick Connection? This is Darren. With me in his studio is GARDNSOUND. You can check him out on YouTube. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. We're in, obviously, a different setting today. We're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of how to watch, we're going to talk about how to listen to the movie It Follows. All right, like I said, this is GARDNSOUND. He is a music expert. He's got a lot of opinions and background on this type of music. So we're going to actually listen to some of the soundtrack of It Follows and just talk about how it really shapes that story and how significant it actually is.
Right on. We play a little bit and talk over it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's solid. Yeah, you don't really expect, just listening to it, not watching, you don't expect that that's where that's going to go.
No. And there are a couple of reasons why this is an extremely effective composition. This is, by the way, this is written by a recording artist named Disasterpiece. I highly recommend that you go check out some of his solo stuff. But this particular song has a very driving industrial feel to it. You like to hear that?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be. It's right around 60 beats per minute, which is exactly, it's about half of what our normal resting heart rate is.
Yeah.
And it's also 60 beats per minute, which is the ticking of the clock.
Okay.
And what this song really brings, to mind for me is the inevitable demise that we all are going to face. Sorry. And really what he's doing is he's playing with industrial sounds. Now, industrial music is a genre of music that started in the early 90s, late 80s with artists like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, to a degree, Justice's original stuff, but that was more like early 2000s. Artists like Kraftwerk. But industrial music is taking samples of what originally was industrial equipment, like actual brake drums off of a car, etc., and creating drum samples with that. So using that to, in effect, as the mode of musical transportation, right? And what we've got in this is a callback to industrialism, or the idea that there is music inherent in the process of machinery, right? Like there's if you were in a steel mill, hearing musical ideas there, and what that does is it makes things feel inhuman. Inhuman. Yeah. It makes the music feel very alien.
Yeah.
And cold.
And something, that's not all stuff that I would have been able to pick out the first time watching it, but something I definitely noticed the first time watching it, and it pairs so well with the way the movie's shot and where it's shot, just sort of in average suburbia.
Right.
Is it feels very much like an old John Carpenter movie, and it sounds like a very updated John Carpenter soundtrack. And from what I understand, the director was a fan of Disasterpiece from his work on the Fez video game, which is a great game. If you haven't played it, you should check it out. But he liked his work on that, and he's just a big fan of John Carpenter. And this is I think the first score Disasterpiece did, and I think he killed it because it's great. It's good from start to finish.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie would have been as good with just sort of a generic score.
Right. So there's a heavy use of analog synthesis as well in the score. Analog synthesis is something that's really in right now. Was it Stranger Things? The use of these older sounds in newer synthesizers that are analog. You know what I actually did? Can I plug an episode I did of my channel?
Yeah.
I did an entire really deep dive into how the theme from Stranger Things was made on my channel, actually going down and breaking down the individual sounds on the same analog synthesizer that the majority of it was written on. But there are elements in this song too, in the main theme, or in the soundtrack, with polyphonic and polyphonic analog synthesis, which is taking multiple different noises and smashing them together. But the primary difference between analog synthesis and digital synthesis, even though he is using some bit crush I think that might be digital. What's going on is actual electricity passing through a circuit board, producing actual noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Instead of a computer emulating.
Right.
Noise.
It's actually something like almost physically is making the noise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing to sit there with an analog synthesizer and play with those knobs and think that you're literally just manipulating electricity out of the wall.
Yeah.
Like that's all you're doing.
That's
like,
cool.
Yeah, it's rad. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. I'm not sure. I don't want to be quoted on this, or maybe I do, but I think he's using a Dave Smith Instruments, either a Prophet 8 or a Prophet 12. It's a cool synthesizer.
Something interesting I think the music does, and it kind of goes with what you're talking about, is I don't want to. It's not timeless. Maybe that's not the right word. It doesn't necessarily sound futuristic, and it also doesn't sound
dated,
familiar.
Yeah.
Like it's not of like a specific time, so it's not dated, and it's not. It's sort of got this like ambiguous time, and the movie has that. Whereas like, there's not a lot of modern cars in it.
Right.
There's a lot of cars from the 60s and 70s in it. The movie obviously doesn't take place then. But then there's also weird technology in it. Like one of her friends has like this little, I don't know if you remember, but she's got almost like a little like makeup compact, but it's actually like a reader. It's
right.
It's like a...
it's like a phone.
Yeah. She's reading something
right.
on it and there's light coming out of it. And it's not something we have today.
Right.
But outside of that, there's not a lot of futuristic tech or anything, so it's got this weird, and the houses are all like 70s, early 80s. It's just got this weird time frame, and then the movie itself doesn't make it clear how many days have passed.
Right.
And I don't know can you speak to maybe how the music sort of like plays with that a little bit?
Well, I think that's the sound palette. Like, so his choice of noises is ambiguous.
Okay.
So like I said, there is the analog synthesis, which is very 70s, very 80s, very early stages of synthesizers when people were still kind of trying to figure out how to use them.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, how about a big pad,
Yeah.
Or how about, an arpeggiator, and that's really all they had, right? If you listen to early Pink Floyd albums, they are groundbreaking not only because they use synthesizers, but because they were trying new techniques with them. They didn't really know what they were doing with it.
Yeah.
So there's that's present in the sound score, but there's also, and this is something that Disasterpiece is known for, a lot of chiptune and digital synthesis happening alongside that. So he's taking the more futuristic, literal, like heavy use of compression and limiting, and noise gates and stuff like that, and smashing that together with the old school way of synthesis. So it's both. So which you don't realize that you notice that, but you do notice that. It's definitely something that people notice and registers internally. Yeah,
that's the thing that's cool always about music to me, especially when it's distinct like that, is it's kind of working on you and you don't realize it. It's just adding to the ambience of the whole scene. But then you can go back and you can think more about it as well, and there's more significance there than you maybe picked up consciously the first time you saw it. So
a lot of composing for film is playing with psychology, and he does a lot of playing with psychology here too. On Heels, the song we were just listening to, it's very static. There's no harmony. There's no progression.
It's aggressive too,
and there's no escaping it.
Yeah.
Whereas the title theme, when in spots in the movies when there actually is progression of the plot, or they're hatching a plan or something like that, the actual chords do progress. So the newer noises are the little glitchy, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And also there's an effect on top of these analog synthesizers called a bit crusher that's making it sound.
Yeah. Because the sharp notes are clear, but they do have a little bit of a break to them. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a very distinct tune. Like it'll be a classic sound the more time that passes.
Right.
I think. Yeah.
And there's layers on layers going on in there. So that one noise that like that's 3 different synthesizers at least that I can pick out. And some of them are new and some of them are old. So like I said, he's combining, he's hybrid, he's making a hybrid out of new and old technique.
I didn't realize how much it contributed to it based on what you're talking about. just for me, it just felt like an old John Carpenter movie. He shot it like one. Even the main character, her name is Jay, which is short for Jamie.
Yeah.
He's on record as the director's on record as saying it's a reference to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just a short little thing for him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I learned something.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff with this movie. I'm excited to see what the director does again. It looks like his next movie, he's working with Disasterpiece again, which I think is great. He should.
Can I make a quick aside here about scaring yourself and watching horror movies?
Nope, we got a black bag.
Okay, so he was talking about speakers. If you really want to scare yourself and you really want to watch a horror movie the correct way,
oh yeah,
get a pair of headphones. And I'm talking about, the kind that go over your ears, that have decent drivers that kind of block out all the other noise, because that, with a good level of bass range, you listen to a horror movie on headphones at night with one light on in a different room. Yeah, that's the way to watch a horror movie.
Yeah, because you're also deafening yourself to any other sounds that could be in the room. That's great. So thanks for all the additional information on this movie.
Yeah.
Talking about it right now, I want to watch it again. Hopefully you want to watch it again at home now that you have a little bit more background on the music and what sort of impact it has on you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Check this guy's channel out. The link will be in the description below. But thanks for watching, and you will see me next time.